Hi, Robin. I hear you have a pony that likes to turn his hindquarters towards you. And your question was, how would you get him to stop doing that? Because it can be dangerous. You have some kids, and the pony might turn his hindquarters towards you, and the next thing you might do is be pinning his ears and maybe kicking at you. You can't have that around you, or you can't have that around your children. So, depending on how big your pen is, if you had him in, say, a 60-foot or smaller round pen, to where if you would step to that horse, and you might need a flag, you might need a little stock whip or something like that, to where you'd have that horse to where you could drive him out, and any time that you would ask him to stop, what you would do is send him forward. So picture it in your mind, he's in the round pen, and you're going to send him around maybe to the left. So he's going to go counterclockwise to the left. You need to get this forward motion, you need to be behind his drive line, which would be kind of where the cinch would be if he was saddled. So you're behind that drive line, send him forward. Now, when you want him to stop, so you're in that position going around with him, there's pressure on him. When you want him to stop, what you're going to do is you're going to go in front of that drive line, so it might be a step or so in front of that drive line. When the pony looks towards you, you're going to yield and back off, so you take the pressure off. Now, what will happen to start with, it quite often does, is that horse is going to want to change direction, and he'll roll his hindquarters out to go the other way. So what I mean by that is his head's going to go away from you, and his hindquarters are going to come towards you. You have your flag or your stop whip in your hand, and when I say use your whip, you're just going to tap him on the button to make sure that he moves away from you. What you want to have him do is you want to have him yield his hindquarters, so you're moving in front of the drive line, stepping back, which will draw him towards you, so his hindquarters go away from you, front end comes towards you. You could have the flag change to your other hand where you'd send him off and go the other direction, say clockwise. Anytime he'd roll his hindquarters to you, you would add more pressure. You might pop him on the butt with that stock whip, or shake that flag a little harder to where he understands he needs to yield his hindquarters. So when you have a herd environment, you have some horses in the pen, they're very aware of another horse, say, pinning his ears and rolling their hindquarters towards them. The horse is very aware of this, because that's the business end. I mean, they'll strike and bite too, but more often or not, they're going to kick. So the horses understand that when they're, say, pinning their ears and rolling their hindquarters towards you, that it is a sign of disobedience, and it's a sign of aggression that you cannot allow. As I say, more often, in any time we're working with our horse, we have to set it up to where in the herd of two that you're developing, that you're the dominant one in that herd of two. You can't have your horse being dominant over you, to where when he steps to you, you move out of his way when he rolls his hindquarters. You're the one that's going to be the leader. So as you'd set it around and you change direction on him, you always make sure that he yields his hindquarters away from you and bring the front quarters towards you. And you do that, like I said, by stepping in front of the drive line and drawing. You'd spend as much time as it would take. You don't get in a panic, you'd be moving him around the pen. You don't want him soaking wet and lathering, but he might get worked up to start with, depending on, how sensitive he is. This would be something you could also do on the end of a halter rope, to where you wouldn't maybe need your round pen. You could move him around in a halter. You'd always have him yield his hindquarters to where you step into his hindquarters. So its setup's a little bit different with where you're going to step. If you have him on the end of a halter shank, what you're going to do is, as you drive him around, say back to the left, you're going to tip his nose towards you, draw his nose across towards you, and step into his hindquarters and have him yield his hindquarters to change direction. So he's showing you a sign of respect when he yields his hindquarters, then he brings his front end through. Your horse just needs to understand, and doing both these methods, taking the time to do them and do them regular. It's horses learn by repetition, and they'll learn from you being consistent in how you set this up and get them to yield their hindquarters, that you are the leader of the herd or two, and that is so important. You're dealing with a herd animal, and they're very aware of who the leader is in their herd. And the person or the horse that gets to control the other horse's feet becomes the leader. So just keep that in mind. Your horse will look at you totally differently if he knows you have the ability to have him yield his feet, that you can send him in a separate directions, you can change his direction. direction, you can change his speed. He'll look at you totally different. So you hang in there. It's well worth the time, because a pony or a horse that'll turn his hindquarters to you and kick is just dangerous.